Hi, 7th grade. Welcome to lesson 1-7, topic 1, lesson 7, multiplying rational numbers. By the end of the lesson, I want you to be able to confidently say, I can multiply rational numbers. So let's solve and discuss it. Stella is making the United States flag. She has blue fabric, red fabric, and white fabric. Choose a length for the flag. What length of the blue fabric would Stella need to make this flag? Explain your thinking. So there are multiple different answers of this. I want you guys to brainstorm on your own. Come up with a length of your flag, any length, and then from that length, figure out how much you would need of blue fabric. So pause the video, write this down. Hopefully we get some participation. Okay, so something I was thinking was, say our flag is 50 feet long, super long, from here to here. The whole thing is 50 feet. Well, I know that the blue part is only 2/5 of that 50 feet. So in order to figure out how long I need it, I need to separate 50 into 5 parts. So 50 divided by 5 is 10. So I know each section is 10. And I know the blue is 2 sections. So I'm going to do 10 times 2, which gives me 20. The other way around to do this, and it's what we're going to talk about during this lesson, would just be to multiply 50 by 2/5 in the first place. So we can either turn the 50 into a fraction by putting it over 1 and multiplying the tops. 50 times 2 is 100. 1 times 5 is 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20. We get the same answer. Or we can turn that 2/5 into a decimal and do 50 times 2/5 is 0.4. Plug that into our calculator, and we will also get out 20. So there are multiple different options for that. Focus on math practices. The blue region of the flag is 7/13 the width and 2/5 the length. What part of the total area is the blue region of the flag? So area, we have to do area equals length times width. So they tell us that the length is 2/5 and the width is 7/13. So we're going to multiply this, multiply fractions. We can multiply straight across. 2 times 7 is 14. 5 times 13 is 65. Okay, on to the first example. Example number 1. Multiply a negative number by a positive rational number. We kind of talked about this last class, so this is just a continuation of that. 2 hikers descend from the summit of a mountain. What is Petra's change in elevation? Well, it says that Petra's change in elevation is 3.5 times as great as Ben's change in elevation. And we see that Ben's change in elevation is 1.2 meters negative. So is Ben walking up or down? Down, good. So on the number line, they're showing 3.5 groups of 1.5. So that means they go back, 1.2. They go back 1.2, that's 1 time. Go back 1.2, that's 2 times. Go back 1.2, that's 3 times. And then half of 1.2 is 0.6. So we go back 0.6. And that's where we land. So that's a visual representation on a number line. The other way we can do this is just by multiplying. 3.5 times negative 1.2. Well, from what we know last time, a negative times a positive gives us what kind of answer? Negative, good. And that's here again in our generalization. Remember, if the two numbers don't match, no bueno, it's not good, okay? So we have a negative answer. Let's try it. Megan's bank account is charged $9.95 per month for an online newspaper subscription. How could you represent the change in her account balance after 3 months of charges? So if she's charged, is this going to be positive or negative? Negative, good. And how many months did she get charged? 3. Those are important parts of the word problem. So here in the box, they want us to show it on a number line. We have 3 groups of negative 9.95. So to do it out, writing an equation, they already have times negative 9.95. So what do we think is going to go in this box? 3. So 3 times negative 9.95. Get out my calculator. 29.85. So after 3 months, the change in her account balance is, oh, what did I forget? Negative, good catch. So after 3 months, the change in her account balance is negative 29.85. Convince me. Megan's bank account was charged 3 times. Without calculating, how could you determine whether this is a negative or positive change to her account? Well, we know it was charged, so that was a negative. But times, you could never say, like, I went to the mall negative 2 times. That just doesn't make sense. So we know since it was charged 3 times, that would have to be a positive number. So we should be able to check ourselves, knowing that our answer should be negative. Example number 2. Multiplying a positive number by a negative rational number. Find the product. Here's a good word. Product means to do what? Multiply. Good. So we were multiplying negative 5/6 and 2/5. Multiplying fractions, we could just multiply straight across. The numerator with the numerator, denominator with the denominator. So when we're talking about a negative fraction, so this confuses people a lot. Negative 5/6. The negative kind of floats in front of the fraction, so you don't really know who it belongs to. Does it belong to the 5? Does it belong to the 6? Does it belong to both? The answer is not both, it's one or the other. You could make that choice. So I like to rewrite it so it's more clear. It's either going to be negative 5 over positive 6 or positive 5 over negative 6. I tend to use the negative on top. I don't know why. I think it just looks cleaner. Your choice, but never write negative 5 over negative 6, because a negative number divided by a negative number actually gives you a positive answer, which would mean this is not the same fraction that we were talking about before. So this is no good. Okay, so here they chose to put the negative with the 5. You can see they did the negative 5 times 2 to get negative 10, and 6 times 5 to get 30. Then you want to simplify or reduce. So I see 10 and 30, and I know both of those can be divided by 10, which gives us negative 1 over 3. So the answer is negative 1 over 3. And we knew all along the answer was going to be negative, so we have a negative times a positive. Example number 3. Multiplying a negative times a negative. We should already know this generalization. A negative number times a negative number gives us a positive answer. Remember, these two match because they're both negatives, so that's a good thing. Our answer is going to be positive. So finding the product of negative 3/10 and negative 11 over 30, we have to do 2 things. We have to think about, okay, is the answer going to be positive or negative? So what is it? Positive. And then I also have a decimal and a fraction. So we have to decide whether we want to turn them both into decimals or both into fractions. But it really depends on our numbers. They turn them both to fractions, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So negative 3/10, so negative 0.3 looks like negative 3/10 because the 3 is in the 10th position. And then we have negative 11 over 30. They put the negatives on both in the numerators. So negative 3 times negative 11 gives us positive 33. 10 times 30 gives us 300. Then they turned their fraction into a decimal by doing 33 divided by 100. Remember, I taught you that trick. If you need a reminder, put dots where the numbers are. Draw the line. It looks like a division symbol. So I'm going to tell you why they chose not to put it into decimals. If we tried that, negative 0.3 times negative 11 over 30. If I do 11 divided by 30 in my calculator, I get 0.36 repeating. That's going to be pretty hard for you to put into your calculator and multiply across, unless you put that in first and then multiplied by negative 0.3. Okay, I want you to try these 4 on your own. Pause the video and we will ask for some participation and fill them out. Okay, hopefully most of you participated. I'm going to quickly go through these. Negative 5.3 times negative 2.6. Well, it's a negative times a negative. I know my answer is going to be a positive 13.78. B, negative 3/5 times 4 1/6. So I want to change these into an improper fraction. I can leave negative 3/5, but in order to change my 4 1/6, I have to multiply the bottom and add the top. 4 times 6 is 24, and plus 1 would be 25. So I'm multiplying by 25 over 6. A negative times a positive number should give me a negative. So I've got negative 25 times 3 is 75. 5 times 6 is 30. Well, I want to turn this back into a proper fraction. 30 goes into 75 twice with 15 left over, but oops, I forgot my negative. Be very careful, don't lose it in the process. So it goes in twice with 15 left over. But you should recognize 15 over 30. 15 is half of 30, so I can reduce to negative 2 1/2. Now, 0.2 times negative 1.78. Positive times a negative is going to give us a negative number. You should have gotten negative 0.356. And here, part D, you have 2 options on how to solve this. Do we want to put it into a decimal or a fraction? I'll do decimal first. Negative 2.5 times negative 7/10 is just 0.7. A negative times a negative gives us a positive. So I know my answer is going to be positive 1.75. Our other option is to do it with a fraction. Negative 2.5 is negative 2.5 times negative 7/10. Just like up above, I need to change this into an improper fraction. So multiply and add. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 gives us a negative 5/2 times negative 7/10. Just like we mentioned, we know a negative times a negative is a positive. So my answer is going to be positive 35 over 20. I know 20 goes into 35 once. So it's going to be 1 with 15 left over. I know 15 and 20 are both divisible by 5. So that gives me 1 and, if I divide by 5, 3/4. Perfect. These answers match because 1 and 3/4 is the same thing as 1.75. 3/4, 75 cents. Okay, so just to reiterate, factors, the signs are the same, the product is positive, signs are different, the product is negative. So I hope you can all say you can multiply rational numbers. Have a great day.